Your Best Life. Please welcome Rosalyn Kahn.
And Debbie Mathias and her husband Shlomi were murdered in their home in a pogrom in Kibbutz Holit at 7 a.m. on October 7th. They lived 2,000 feet from the Gaza border fence because they were peace activists and believed in peace. There will not be peace until Hamas is destroyed. And I work on campuses around North America, and what we are facing with Jewish students feeling threatened or coming out in support and in mourning of victims like my cousin, innocent victims, is downright disgusting, and it must end. And university officials and administrators must do everything in their power to protect Jewish students. Terrorism begins in Israel, does not end in Israel, as the U.S. has learned all too often, very tragically. Our hearts go out to all the innocents who are suffering, but you must have no mercy for Hamas.
Deborah and Shlomi Mathias. A tragic loss in Israel.
Is up against the secret portal annihilating every Jew from the soil of Israel. And if Israel cannot respond with the personality it has faced, because it is facing an enemy which seeking cannot let it. Because Hamas, on the other hand, will inflict maximum civilian casualties, both on the Israeli side and on its own side. My cousin's blessed memory lived 2,000 feet from the Gaza border. And the reason they lived there is because they were peace activists who believe that someday we will have peace on us. We will still continue to hope and wait for that day. But until that, Hamas needs to be utterly destroyed so one of these terror attacks may ever happen again in Israel or anywhere else in the world.
If you are comfortable, move on life. And can you tell me the details of the attack as a panel?
My cousin and her husband were in their home, and around 7 in the morning on Saturday, October 7th, they heard shots, they heard rockets and sirens, and went into their safe room. They started communication with the rest of my family in Israel. They were American citizens, by the way, their cousin was a citizen, and they were scared. They said they heard breaking glass, they heard voices laughing in Arabic, playing music. Sounded like the back door had been shattered. They put furniture up against the door of their safe room, and a grenade exploded the door down. Terrorists rushed in. My cousin jumped on her 16-year-old son and took a bullet which went through her into his abdomen. He miraculously survived, lying under his mother's body for a number of hours. His father, Shlomi, had his arm blown off. He was a musician with insured hands. And his last words were that he lost his arm and he died at that point as well. For the next 10 to 12 hours, my family was on a phone, on WhatsApp with their 16-year-old son, coaching him through the situation to make sure that he would not be discovered by the terrorists. He came back to their house 3 times to make sure that they had finished the job and then set the house on fire. Following the ordeal, he was only evacuated by the IDF approximately 10 hours later, at which point he was covered from head to toe in black soot from the fire and from smoke, and had 4% cell phone charge left, and almost didn't make it. He miraculously survived. His sisters were hiding in a different house in a safe room. They survived. They were not caught by the terrorists who were prowling. And we would survive. Our family would survive. Our people would survive. My cousins grandmother was a survivor of the pogrom in Ukraine in 1919, where her great-grandmother threw her grandmother under a bed before answering her door and being shot in the spot. And her granddaughter went through exactly the same thing, protecting her own son. And the cycle of history, the cycle of hatred and violence against the Jewish people seems to be never-ending. And this is a turning point. It must not continue.
Now there's a lot of talks about civilians in Gaza. What do you think? Racism.
Our heart goes out to the civilians in Gaza. Unfortunately, the predicament for the civilians in Gaza was created by none other than Hamas themselves, who are currently blocking transports of civilians to the south of Gaza, while the IDF patiently awaits them to evacuate before launching its round attack. There's no other army that operates according to these terms. No other army waits for a population to evacuate before fighting its own enemy who is bent on destroying it. The civilian catastrophe in Gaza was avoidable had Hamas not come to power, not considered its incessant attacks against Israelis, and not undergone the barbaric and unhuman treatment of people like my cousin, in which they took pleasure and laughed, they played music, while killing innocent, pacifist civilians. We can only deserve what we receive. The civilians of Gaza are in, unfortunately, the possibly position right now, and we Jews are compassionate people, and you have no other choice. You will take no glee and no joy in this operation. We are solely out to defend our own citizens and our own people with the most horrific, outrageous acts. Human beings, if you want to call them, like to compensate on an human being. This is not just a fight for Israel, it's a fight for humanity. It's a fight for the free wine, as a fight for civilization. The international community, this unity of civilized nations, needs to understand that once and for all. I am a rabbi, and I'm an attorney, and I'm an activist for Jewish graduate students across North America on 130 campuses. And unfortunately, those Jewish students right now, rather than being able to breathe and to find comfort or support among their campus communities, are being met with opposition, with threats, with violence, with aggression, just for speaking up about tragedies like the ones that took place in my cousins and countless others, from people of their own campuses that think that they deserve the treatment that they received. This cannot continue. University administrations need to take heed. You are not allowed to allow support to terrorism to fester on your campuses under the guise of political correctness and intellectual dishonesty. Jewish students and the Jews in this country need to be protected. And that's not just by government and law enforcement, who are doing an amazing job making sure that we are safe. That has to extend to private institutions, it has to extend to academia, to the universities, to the media. We need to understand that every word posted that condemns Israel threatens Jews here in the United States.